Hello everyone, this is a house I made in Joy. So, obviously as you can see, this house is made out of little cubes, and if you get a controller, then it turns like a Rubik's Cube. Gotta be careful not to turn it too quickly though, because in the past, if you turn two sides at the same time quickly when pressing the wrong keys, then it does just break the whole thing and two pieces will get destroyed. I've had to fix it recently. So first I'll show you how it works, so a little inside tour, and then I'll show you how it works inside, and all the mechanics. You can hear the engine going wild beneath us. So the main controls are W is the front side, and it turns it like that. S is the back side, and then left and right, and then if we go up here, the final side you can turn is the bottom, which is just shift. And unfortunately, due to limitations, every side turns counterclockwise. There is no key to turn it it all turns clockwise, nothing turns counterclockwise. Although if you want to turn it counterclockwise, then you can just turn it 3 times, and that's the equivalent. And then as you can see, there are entranceways, and if we get a little bit away from the humming of the engine, that shouldn't be like that, oh well. All of the rooms are a little bit different. Some have doorways, some have hallways. They've been mixed up a little bit to make a little bit of a puzzle out of it, so you have to find your way through the rooms. That's the front side. And as you can see... Oh wait, one sec, let me change the time. As you can see, it's a wonderful house if you like complicated homes. There's nothing efficient about it. It takes forever to get anywhere, but that's part of the charm. A big limitation that you might have noticed is that it's not actually possible to turn the top side. The top side doesn't turn. You can turn the bottom side, front left, right, front back, left, right, but the front side does not turn, although it could be made so that the front side turns. But I chose not to have front side turns because the top middle piece is kind of like a center to the house. It's the entranceway to the house, and you also have the link controller here on a pedestal, so you can click here and turn it like that. So this is kind of in theory like a middle bit of a house, a center, an entranceway, and so I chose to have it so it didn't turn. Also limitations with technology. So if we go into the center here, this is where all the magic happens. So right here we have our creative engine right there, which turns and makes energy out of nowhere, and it leads down here to a gearbox, and then we have all of these, I've forgotten the names, one second. Mechanical bearings. So there's a mechanical bearing for each centerpiece, and the mechanical bearings are attached to sequence gear shifts. And then the sequence gear shifts each have these redstone links on them. For the redstone links linking to the controller, I have patterns which look like this. So I use these patterns just because it's easy to remember. Fern for front, birch for back, lapis for left, redstone for right, and then bedrock for the bottom layer because bedrock is on the bottom of the world. Just easy to remember that way. And then actually, due to the smallness of the house, you can actually see I've had to make some inconsistencies with the design. For the front and back pieces, the mechanical bearings are actually inside the front, inside the center cube. But for the left and right, I ran out of space, so the mechanical bearings are actually inside the centerpieces for the left and right side. And obviously there is no top mechanical bearing or gear shift because the top piece does not turn. Most of the main reason why I don't have the top piece turning, part of the reason is because I want a entranceway that doesn't move, but another reason why the top piece doesn't turn is simply because of size. The current cubes are all 5 by 5, and it just means that there's not enough space, because in order for the design to work, much like a real Rubik's Cube, all of the actual mechanics are in the inside of the centerpiece. And so if you have one cube which is only 5 by 5, all of the cubes have to be 5 by 5, including the centerpiece where all of the actual mechanical parts are. So part of the reason that we're limited is just a lack of space. If we wanted to make it bigger, we could, and if the cube itself was bigger, we would have more space on the inside. Maybe we could make it more complex, and you could give it, you could make it so the top piece moved, or you could have other complexities if you wanted to. There's a bit of inconsistency with the design, like I showed before. You could fix that up, although it doesn't really need much fixing. And then inside of the centerpieces, we have these big radial chassis which go through the centerpiece, as you can see. Then I'm just going to break these. So the radial chassis are connected to the gear shift, to the mechanical bearings in the center there, which causes all of these to rotate, and then these chassis are actually each 8 across. Now here's the important part for the design. Now obviously, as is part of the design of a Rubik's Cube, when you turn the pieces, you actually turn individual pieces, and you can create different combinations, which is obviously the point of the puzzle. So you can move independent corner pieces, and you can separate the pieces. So when it comes to the gluing, each individual box has its own glue and is its own contraption. So the main magic which makes this work is the radial chassis, and also just the regular linear chassis which we have there. So the radial chassis will cause the centerpiece to rotate because it's connected to the mechanical bearing and it's a contraption itself. But because of their connection on the inside, they'll also turn all of these corner pieces as well, as is convention for a Rubik's Cube. And then inside the corner pieces, we have these radial chassis which connect them to edge pieces. I meant edge pieces. These are the edge pieces. The edge piece moves because they're connected by the radial chassis inside of the centerpiece when the centerpiece is rotating. And then the edge pieces all have linear chassis in them, which connects them to the corner pieces. Another small detail you might want to notice about the design is that part of the design is that the centerpiece is the smallest piece, and is actually physically smaller as a contraption because of the way the glue is connected to the edge pieces, and the edge pieces are slightly larger than the corner piece, and then the centerpiece, but then the corner pieces are the largest parts, as you can see just by counting the blocks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 5 blocks across as a contraption made by glue. And then this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they get bigger as you spread out. That's just as contraptions. The actual blocks themselves stay consistently the same size for each panel, and obviously the actual block used doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you use glass or brass casing. That's just an aesthetic design, and you could put on actual colours and make it an actual functioning Rubik's Cube. But I wanted to have this as a house, so I just used glass so that every cube worked as a room and had windows. And a slight inconvenience of this design is that if you look inside there, on the bottom layer, all of the floor pieces are all made out of glass and just show the dirt underneath, because obviously it's rotatable. And so if you rotate the pieces, they have to be able to turn into windows when they're turned upright. So there's just glass on the bottom layer. I have no intention of fixing this. is this actually buildable in survival mode? Well, it's made using a creative motor, but also you could just make a steam engine inside of here instead of a creative motor. So it is makeable in survival mode in theory, although all of the mechanics have to happen on the inside of the very middle piece, the piece on the very inside center of all of the blocks. This design uses 5x5 blocks, but you know, if you wanted to have steam power or make this in survival mode, you would have to make it far bigger, or alternatively use a smarter design than anything I can come up with. Admittedly, this is not the most efficient way to create a Rubik's Cube-like device. Also, in theory, these rooms are all supposed to have, you know, furniture in them and be rooms as if this was a functioning house. I haven't actually decorated it yet. There's some limitations as to what kind of furniture you can use, because obviously all of the rooms can be rotated on their sides, so I can't use regular torches, I'm just using glowstone here. And you can't even use trapdoors for like decoration because they'll turn as well and it just doesn't work. But whilst slightly limited in what you can do, you could have some fun with it. You could probably put down perhaps an enchanting table, maybe, and obviously barrels maybe instead of chests, and crafting tables, and then you could put down chairs just by using stairs, and the stairs would rotate, but they would be the right way up if they were on the top layer. This obviously isn't an efficient house to live in if you want convenient housing, but it's fun for like as a challenge that you have to actually reorganize the rooms to find your way around. You have to actually turn the pieces to find certain rooms, which is just adds an interesting challenge to it. Like so, you know, you could make this a enchanting room, and then to get there it took a little bit of mental thinking. It is slightly annoying that right when you're in the entranceway I've built, there's a creative motor right under you which is just making a lot of noise. But overall, it's a fun little design. It took me about 2 hours to make. 2 hours to make functional, but in functional in light terms, not complete. But once it was completed, we have what we have now. As for the interior design, I've just used some hallways sort of designs for between corner blocks and edge pieces, and then I have regular doorways for the center pieces connecting to the edge pieces, and that's very weird. That is a problem I have not come across yet. That was weird. Yeah, do not turn two pieces at the same time, unless it's like left and right. But obviously, if you're using a real Rubik's Cube, then you can't turn up and left at the same time, and if you just forcibly try to turn up and left, it's just going to cause the pieces to break. Same applies here. You have to just wait, turn one side, and then turn the other, and just wait for them to finish, otherwise you're going to break it. That is all. It is a design I came up with myself, but obviously other people have probably already made Rubik's Cube designs which are far more complicated, and far better made, I suspect. That is all. I hope that you enjoyed. Goodbye.